Surah 4, verse 97. Indeed, those whom the angels take in death while wrongdoing themselves, the angels will say, in what condition were you? They will say, we were oppressed in the land. The angels will say, was not the earth of Allah spacious enough for you to emigrate therein? For those their refuge is hell, and evil it is as a destination. Then again, in Hadith, which is from Sunan Abi Dawud, Hadith number 2645. The Hadith says, the Messenger of Allah sent an expedition to Khatam. Some people sought protection by having recourse to prostration and were hastily killed. When the Prophet heard that, he ordered half the blood wheat to be paid for them, saying, I am not responsible for any Muslim who stays amongst the polytheists. I am not responsible for any Muslim who stays amongst the polytheists. They asked, why, Messenger of Allah? He said, their fires should not be visible to one another.
Is it a sin or shirk to migrate for worldly reasons as mentioned in the hadith? Shirk? No, it is not. Migration, leaving your Muslim country to live in a non-Muslim country, is prohibited. The Prophet ﷺ said, I have nothing to do with someone who goes and lives among the disbelievers or the idol worshippers. In another narration, he was giving the pledge of allegiance to a man, and he asked him to do a number of things, and among them is to not live among the disbelievers. So, basically speaking, if someone migrates for worldly reasons, if someone goes to work abroad in a non-Muslim country to gain money, to add some worldly value to his experience or life, this is permissible if it is temporary. But if he goes there and acquires a citizenship or lives there for good, this is not permissible unless it has a number of conditions. Why is it not permissible? Life there is easy, infrastructure is good, people are treated equally, so they say and claim. There's security, there's no poverty, there's no this and that, there's no injustice. These are banners and claims that if you look closely and scrutinize the lives of those who live there, you would find that it is not true. Yes, there is a lot of good in living in such non-Muslim countries. There might be a lot of fairness and justice overall. There might be a higher standard of living, but still it is a non-Muslim country. Still there are numerous sins all around you. You cannot trust your children to be brought up in an Islamic fashion. And in so many countries, you are not allowed to practice your religion freely. Maybe in some countries you can. But in the enmity and hatred towards Muslims, especially immigrants, is growing up.
For what reason, Sheikh Asim al-Hakim? For what reason? Still, there are laws in countries like UK, USA, Canada, where everybody has to be treated equally, regardless of the religions. But why do you think the hate is growing? Although I condemn any kind of hatred. You know, there are a series of bomb attacks. They want to impose the Sharia. So people who are against such laws are obviously upset, because in Sharia, non-Muslims are considered worst creatures on the face of the earth. Surah 98, verse 6 to 8. And Muslims are considered the best because they are simply Muslims. And non-Muslims are considered unclean. Surah 9, verse 23 to 28. Read onwards. So, that's obvious reasons. If you don't want to impose your ways, you're always treated equally. Muslims are even given equal rights in benefits, welfare system, housing, medical treatment. What else do you want? They even give you citizenships.
You can see that in the way they behave against Muslims. If anything that is considered to be hostile or a crime committed, they would immediately say the first suspect must be a Muslim. This is well known. They fight the freedom.
Well, unfortunately, most of the cases that we see, terrorist attacks, in most of the cases, in almost all the cases, are Muslims, unfortunately. But still, the Western society do not condemn all the Muslims as terrorists. So what's wrong with you, Sheikh?
Of religious practice. Women are unable to wear the niqab.
Who told you that? But at the same time, we have to be wary of, security concerns, because there are many reasons to worry for that.
In France, in so many parts of Europe, and I've always said this, and I would like this to be widely spread all over these non-Muslim countries. Our sisters who are prevented from wearing the niqab and they will be fined for wearing the niqab, just simply wear a medical mask. No one can stop you from wearing a medical mask.
If you are wearing a mask and knock on my door, obviously I will tell you, take the mask off before you come into my shop. Or if you are coming into somewhere where there might be security concerns, regardless whether it's niqab or any mask.
Because there is pollution, there is flu, there are so many germs. So replace your black niqab with a green or blue medical face mask. That would do the job, inshallah. So basically speaking, you can go to such countries if you are unable to practice your deen, if there is turmoil in your country like Afghanistan, Iraq, and you cannot live there without being threatened. But other than that, you may go for a year or two, but you cannot travel or migrate there forever.
Well, okay. By the way, this sheikh is based in Saudi Arabia, so he has no problem telling the entire truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. He doesn't have to be an apologist. Now, this Muslim scholar is a convert to Islam. His name is Sheikh Shady. Well, not Slim Shady, but Sheikh Shady. Let's hear what he has to say. Remember, he's someone who is a convert, white convert to Islam.
Not to help them, but do hijrah. Okay, Muslim should do hijrah to a Muslim country. Where's that Muslim country? I want to know, where is it? Please tell me. Wallahi, I'll make hijrah. Where's that Muslim country?
Did you hear that? That he will make hijrah. If there is a Muslim country better, he will migrate to that country. So the bottom line is, they're saying, yes, of course, Islam says that I should not live among the kuffar, but if there is an option, yes, I will go back. I will go back, or I will migrate to a Muslim nation. And he goes on to say,
be practical, okay? Let's be practical. Let's do what we need to do now. When an Islamic country uprises later on, then go and make hijrah to it, if they give you a visa.
There you go. Let's listen to what else he says.
These days, these Western countries have a lot more Islam, and you could practice your religion more than your own Muslim countries that people talk about.
Wow, wow, wow. What a hypocrite. He's trying to say that, yes, in non-Muslim countries, you can practice your religion more freely than even in Muslim countries, because here, in fact, they are following Islam. No. Islam doesn't allow you freedom of religion. Here, secular governments do. Here, many Christian nations do. Here, many atheist majority nations do. They allow you freedom of religion. Whereas in Islam, Muhammad said, before he passed away, that more than one religion cannot live in one nation. That's according to your prophet. And according to your Quran, Surah 9, verse 23 to 28, that non-Muslims have to pay jizya tax humbly to the Muslims and declare their subordinates. Huh? Right. So, if on the reverse, if non-Muslim lands where you want Muslims to live, if they had such law that Muslims would have to pay a tax for practicing Islam, then would that be Islamic according to your argument? Because in Islam, non-Muslims have to pay the tax. So what if the same policy were adopted by non-Muslim lands against Muslims? You see, in fact, it is not following Islam in any way. Rather, it's following the secular values. Sheikh. Now, this is Dr. Haytham. He's a Muslim scholar and he's a British citizen now. He migrated from his Arab nation. Now, obviously, he can't say that, well, we should really not live in the non-Muslim nations, can he? He can't say that because he accepted the British citizenship himself. So let's see what he says.
So this is one thing. The question is, are we allowed to live in non-Muslim countries now while some of us have no option but to live in non-Muslim countries? And maybe some of us have the option to live in Muslim countries. This is the correct way of asking it. صح? Because some people have no option. هذا أليكس، هذا يوسف. طيب هذا نرويجي أبا عن جد، أبوه وأمه وجده وخاله وجميع أقاربه. طيب. So he is indigenous Norwegian. He will leave his family, his father, his mother, his children, if he has children, and so on. This is one. The other thing is, now, most of the Arab countries and Muslim countries do not accept mass immigration from anywhere in the world.
Why not? Why not? Tell Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and all those rich countries to accept Muslims, for heaven's sake. Tell those Arab sheikhs not to spend so much money in luxury cars and palaces.
Agree? You will go and live in, without naming, in UAE, مثلا. طيب? You will go and live there. After some time, they will become angry of you and they will kick you out. So you cannot live there permanently because you need to have the citizenship of that country now because of the international law setup. Right? So this has to be taken into consideration as well.
So if the non-Muslim kuffar lands stop giving you citizenship, then we'll have no other option but to press forward with your Muslim nations to start giving you citizenships as migrants, right?
Point is, are we asking 250 million Indian Muslims to leave India and to go to Saudi Arabia to work there because India is a kafir country and Saudi Arabia is a Muslim country? Or are we going to ask them to go and to live in Egypt because Mursi is there?
Why not? Tell them to take some Muslims. Why not?
This will never happen.
Why not? Why not? You know, on the other hand, UK is full to the brim. You know, full to the brim. UK is full to the brim and many kuffar lands are full to the brim. And we don't want any more immigration. Thank you very much, because we are up to our nose, unfortunately.
Agree? Can this happen? It is impossible to happen. And then we will ask 50 million Chinese, Muslim Chinese, and 25 or whatever Filipinos, and so on. So
why not? Why not? Saudi Arabia is almost empty. Saudi Arabia is a massive country. It's a massive country. They could do with some people.
Is different from the classical setup that we are used to. This is one thing. The other thing is the ayah, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Those whom the malaika The angels are taking their lives in a state of what? In a state of zulm on themselves, oppression on themselves, which means that they are unable to practice their religion whatsoever. Okay? Or most of the practices of their religion. Then the malaika will say to them, أرض الله واسعة ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة. The land of Allah Jalla wa Ala was wide enough for you to travel. Wasn't wide enough for you to travel? Which means that if they were to say, no, Ya Allah, it was not wide enough for us to travel. They were oppressed and they did not have anywhere to go. So two things: oppressed in a way that they cannot practice.
So many Muslim majority countries, dozens of them. Why don't you fix your own backyard? Huh? You have such a vast, contiguous land of Muslim majority nations. Why don't you fix your own backyard?
Their religion. And the second point is what? What was the second point? The land, they have other options. But the case now in most of the European countries, we are not that oppressed to a level that we cannot practice our religion.
But on the other hand, millions of Muslims demonstrate in Muslim nations against these very, very non-Muslim kuffar lands whenever they can. They're always condemning these lands to be satanic. They're always condemning these lands to be enemies of Islam.
Should be the punishment?
Yeah, why always Christian, they always making movies, making cartoons, making puppets against Muslims. So they can blow anything.
So this is a peaceful protest. But you are asking for the beheading or the killing of the person who made this film, is that correct?
Yeah, because we love our Prophet Muhammad. If any person who protests inside to make a movie like this, we Muslims, we want to die for Muhammad.
To leave the country because it is impure and go back to your home. Yet whenever they run into trouble, they come to Canada for help. I'm 16 years old and was born in Canada, and English is my first language. I can speak Arabic fluently. Originally from Egypt, but I live here and plan to stay here. What right do they have to do this? This area of hijrah is a very long discussion. And I don't believe that there's any set answer to this. And I remember a number of years ago, Sheikh Jafar Sheikh Idris, it was an ISNA convention, the zonal convention in Canada. He made a statement and he said he cannot see anything in the Islamic law that gives the right for Muslims to be living in Canada, in America today. There's no proof that we should be here, that we're living in haram. Okay, now, and he was being sincere, because if you look in the books, you don't find anything. There's been a precedent where Muslims leave Dar al-Islam and they migrate to Dar al-Kufr. They leave the abode of Islam and they go to the abode of disbelief. There's no precedent for this amongst the scholars. And the people chased Sheikh Jafar into his room and they kept him up all night. Till the next day he had to come back. Okay, showing the flexibility of a scholar. And he said, yes, because people made a legitimate argument that sometimes you're leaving the Muslim world because of you're oppressed. In some parts of the Muslim world, if I was to say this, what I'm saying now, the secret police would be waiting for me right there. It's okay, Mr. Hakim, tafaddal, mashkura, to the jail.
Now you need to ask why. Why Islam is not working in Muslim lands to shelter Muslims when Muslims have such a vast, contiguous land in the world.
Tafaddal. Right away. Okay.
57 Muslim nations, not a single Muslim nation to save the Muslims from oppression. Then something has to be wrong with Islam itself.
I think there's even a copy of the Mujtama. They're talking about Hurriya in Canada. The recent Mujtama magazine. and I'm talking about Hurriya. And some people look at people like me or someone else like we're madmen, we're crazy.
Now, after coming to these kuffar lands, this is in Australia. This is in Australia, and Muslims went for riots. Unfortunately, I don't see any peace there because of the cartoon issue. And you'll be shocked that even children were holding placards calling for blasphemers to be beheaded. This is in Australia, Sydney, Australia.
No control and no advice. To see a young child with a placard thrust in his hand calling for the beheading of a person is simply something I cannot comprehend.
The sickening.
This country are not expected to surrender their heritage, but they are expected to surrender their hatreds.
This is not Libya, it's not Yemen, it's not Sudan.
I unequivocally condemn the whole tone and tenor of that demonstration. It didn't
this kind of conduct.
Now, this is in Pakistan, right? Now, this was in Pakistan during the Salman Rushdie row. And Pakistanis took to the streets calling for Salman Rushdie to be hanged and made Britain answerable for sheltering Salman Rushdie. So they were condemning the British government. In Pakistan, well, I wonder why Muslims find it that no Muslim majority nations are unlivable for them. So many of them bring this shit back to the UK when they migrate. That's the problem. That is the problem. We love Muslims, but we want to save them from this cult. You can see this, the demonstration here.
Muslim dushmani, Islam dushmani.
Right. So you can't live in your countries because of this shit, right? You turn that into riot grounds, right? So hopefully you will not bring this shit to the Western countries when you come, and you'll be loved. You'll be welcomed when you are in trouble. But why don't you understand? You should not bring this shit here, because in the West, we have a right to offend for your views. Yet, that doesn't mean we hate you. We may dislike or even hate your views. That's the difference you should learn, right? From Asia Bibi case's outcome, because after Asia Bibi, the Christian lady who allegedly blasphemed against Muhammad, which she denied, the Pakistani highest court dropped all charges, and all cases against her were found to be not true. So she was acquitted. But Pakistanis, millions of them, took to the streets asking her to be hanged, that she should be hanged. I'm sure you don't have to be a rocket scientist to say not even 1%, not even 0.5% of all these millions of them, thousands and millions of people ever even met Asia Bibi, but they have concluded that Asia Bibi said something against Muhammad. Now, even when the Pakistani court acquitted her of all charges, but what the fact should have been that even if Asia Bibi, the Christian lady in Pakistan, said anything against Muhammad, the judge, the Pakistani judge, should have said, so what? You have the freedom of speech. Because in the Western nations, you can say anything you want, even against Jesus Christ, and they will not try to hang you. But still, all these people are out there believing the hearsay to be true, and they all want Asia Bibi's blood. It is 2018, in November the 2nd. They haven't changed, but they would, I'm sure, most of them would love to migrate to kuffar or non-Muslim nations. Isn't that hypocrisy?
बेसिकली आपको मालूम है कि इस वक्त हमारी जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट है उसने तौहीन रिसालत के मुलज़मा आसिया मसीह को इस केस से बरी करार दिया। उस पे इस वक्त हमारा पूरा मुल्क सरापा एहतजाज है।
We don't want you to bring your shit to our lands where you know you are valued, you know you get your freedom of religion, and would love to give you your freedom of religion, but don't bring the shit here. But it continues to be brought here. Why? This is in London. The same shit that we saw in the streets of Karachi, in Pakistan, in Iran, in Bangladesh. Why? Now, if you watch carefully, this is Anjam Chaudhry. He's out of prison. I think he should have been kept there and the key should have been thrown away to show him the real justice. He couldn't have done this thing in any Muslim country against any Muslim government. That's for sure. So the simple solution is, if you don't like these countries, don't fucking come here. You know that you get protection here. You know you flourish here. You know you have all the human dignity here. Then respect the laws of this country and we will love you the same. But knowingly that these countries offer you the opportunity to be good Muslims as well, then simply leave your shit behind or don't come.